Before we look at solving quadratic equations using the method of factorization, we want to look at this concept. So if we have x times y is equal to 0, we know that anytime you multiply any number by 0, the answer is 0. So that would mean either the x is equal to 0 or the y is equal to 0. So if the x is equal to 0, we'll have 0 times y, and anything multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. And if the y is equal to 0, we'll have x times 0, and anything multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. So saying that either x is equal to 0 or y is equal to 0 would only work when this equation is equal to 0. So here we have to solve this equation where we have x multiplied by x plus 2 is equal to 0. So because we have x multiplied by x plus 2 equal to 0, it means either the x is equal to 0 or the x plus 2 is equal to 0. Now we already have one of the answers, meaning that x is equal to 0. Now we just have to solve this equation here where we have x plus 2 is equal to 0. So we transfer this positive 2 across the equal sign and we'll change to negative 2. So I'll have x is equal to 0, take away 2. So x is equal to negative 2. So my answers would be x is equal to 0 or x is equal to negative 2. So if we had to solve this equation where we have x squared plus 2x is equal to 0, I recognize that I have the variable x occurring twice, and therefore I can factorize. So between these two terms, x is the highest common factor. So I'll write x, open brackets, and I'll say x squared divided by x, and I'll get x. Then I'll say positive 2x divided by x, and my answer will be positive 2. And now I'll say either this x is equal to 0 or x plus 2 is equal to 0. So here we already have one of the answers. We just need to solve this one to get the answer here. So I'll have x is equal to 0, take away 2, and x is equal to negative 2. So again, my answer is x is equal to 0 or x is equal to negative 2. So in this equation, I have 3x take away 2 multiplied by x plus 4. So I can have something being multiplied by something and it's equal to 0. Therefore, I can say either the 3x take away 2 is equal to 0 or x plus 4 is equal to 0. And now I'll solve these two equations and get the answers for x. So in this first one, I'll transfer this negative 2 across the equal sign and we'll change to positive 2. So I'll have 3x is equal to 0 plus 2, which will be 3x is equal to 2. Then I have 3 multiplied by x. So when I transfer this 3 across the equal sign, the operation will change from multiplication to division, and this 3 will go underneath the 2. So I'll have x is equal to 2 divided by 3. On this side, I'll transfer this positive 4 across the equal sign, and the sign in front of it will change to negative. So I'll have x is equal to 0, take away 4. So I'll have x is equal to negative 4. And here we have our two answers. X is equal to 2/3 or x is equal to negative 4. So in this question, we have this quadratic equation where we have 3x squared plus 10x take away 8 is equal to 0. So first, I will factorize this quadratic. So my product would be my first term multiplied by my last term, but it must be arranged where you have your term in x squared first, then your term with x, and then a constant. So multiplying 3x squared by negative 8 will give negative 24x squared. My sum would be the term in the middle, which will be positive 10x. So now I'll look for the factors of 24, and that will be 24 by 1, 12 by 2, 3 by 8, 6 by 4. Now looking at our factors, we want to see which two numbers, when we add or subtract, we will get the sum. And when we multiply them, we will get the product. So 12 times 2 would work, because 12 take away 2 would give you 10, which will be the sum. And 12 times 2 will give you the product, which is 24. So 12x take away 2x is equal to 10x. So that gives the sum. And 12x multiplied by negative 2x is equal to negative 24x squared. So you can clearly see the 12x and negative 2x satisfies both the sum and the product. So for my factor, I'll write 12x take away 2x. So now I'll replace this positive 10x with 12x take away 2x. So I'll have 3x squared plus 12x take away 2x take away 8 is equal to 0. And now we'll factorize by grouping, taking two terms at a time. So looking at the first two terms, I look to see what is the highest common factor between these two terms. So looking at the numbers, 3 will be the highest common factor. And looking at the symbols, we'll have x. So I'll write 3x, open brackets, and I'll have 3x squared divided by 3x. 3 into 3 is 1, and x into x squared will give you x. So what we remain with is x. So we'll say positive 12x divided by 3x. So 3 into 12 is 4, and x will cancel x. So what we remain with is positive 4. Now we look at the next two terms, which will be negative 2x and negative 8. So the highest common factor between these two terms would be negative 2, because negative 2 could go into negative 2x, and negative 2 could go into negative 8. So we'll have negative 2, open brackets. So I'll divide this negative 2x with negative 2. So in negative 2 will cancel the negative 2, and remain with positive x. And then I'll divide negative 8 with negative 2, and negative 2 could go into negative 8 4 times. You divide into negative numbers, so you'll get a positive number. So you'll get positive 4, and that is equal to 0. Now notice in our brackets, we have x plus 4 occurring twice. So now we'll take what's outside the bracket, which is 3x, take away 2, and we'll put it in brackets. Then we'll take this bracket, x plus 4, which is occurring twice, and write it once. And now from here, it's just like what we did up here. We'll say either 3x take away 2 is equal to 0, or x plus 4 is equal to 0. And now we solve these two equations separately. And that's your answer. Either x is equal to 2/3 or x is equal to negative 4. So in this question, we have to solve negative y squared plus 6y take away 8 is equal to 0. So again, we'll factorize this quadratic first. So my product will be multiplying my first term by my last term. Once it's arranged where we have the term in y squared first, then the term in y, then your constant. So negative y squared by negative 8 would give you positive 8y squared. My sum would be my middle term, which is positive 6y. And my factors of 8 are 8 by 1, 4 by 2. Now I'm looking to see which one of these, when I add or subtract, I'll get the sum. So it's obvious that 4 and 2 will give 6 by saying 4 plus 2. So 4y plus 2y would give 6y. And 4y multiplied by 2y would give 8y squared. So the 4 and 2 satisfies both the sum and the product. So for my factor, I'll write 4y plus 2y. So now I'll replace the 6y with 4y plus 2y. So I'll have negative y squared plus 4y plus 2y take away 8 is equal to 0. And now I'll factorize by grouping by taking two terms at a time. So looking at the first two terms, the highest common factor will just be y. And since we have a negative term first, we'll use negative y as our highest common factor. So I'll have negative y, open brackets. And I'll say negative y squared divided by negative y, and that will give you positive y because you divide a negative by a negative. So you'll get positive y. Then I'll say positive 4y divided by negative y. We are dividing a positive with a negative, so our answer would be negative. So y into 4y, the y's will cancel, and you remain with negative 4. Then we look at the next two terms, and the highest common factor between 2y and negative 8 would be 2. So I'll write positive 2, open brackets. So I'll divide 2y with positive 2. The 2's will cancel off each other, and you remain with positive y. Then I'll divide negative 8 with positive 2. And since we divided a negative with a positive, the answer will be negative. So 2 into 8 is 4. So I'll get negative 4. And that will be equal to 0. So now I'll take what's outside the brackets, which is the negative y and the positive 2. And I'll put that in brackets by itself. And then I'll take this bracket with the y take away 4, that's occurring twice, and write it once. And now that I have something multiplied by something is equal to 0, I'll say either this negative y plus 2 is equal to 0, or this y take away 4 is equal to 0. And now I'll solve these two equations separately. So in this first one, I'll transfer this positive 2 across the equal sign, and we'll change to negative 2. So I'll have negative y is equal to 0 take away 2. So negative y is equal to negative 2. Now we want to find the answer for positive y. So what I'll do, I'll multiply both sides of the equal sign by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative y will give positive y. And negative 1 times negative 2 will give you positive 2. And on this side, we transfer this negative 4 across the equal sign. I will change to positive 4. So I'll have y is equal to 0 plus 4. So y is equal to 4. And that's your answers. Either y is equal to 2 or y is equal to 4.